At When We're Not Hustling, we believe that seeing sex workers as full people outside of our work is an essential step towards humanizing and destigmatizing the industry and those who work within it. Help us to bring you the stories of the people behind the fantasies. When We're Not Hustling is a 501c3 fiscally sponsored nonprofit project of the Social Good Fund. Thank you for considering a tax-deductible recurring contribution. All contributions will be received through our fiscal sponsor, the Social Good Fund. You can contribute at nothustling.com. Thank you so much.
Put away the lingerie. I want to know you. Tell me more. I don't care about the news. I'd rather hear about you and see the world from your point of view. The coffee's already made, so I probably should just pull up a chair and tell me more.
Welcome to When We're Not Hustling, a podcast where sex workers talk about everything but. I'm your host, Jessie Sage. When We're Not Hustling is a weekly podcast that explores the lives and identities of sex workers outside of our work personas, our personal philosophies, ambitions, families, relationships, passions, spirituality, and so much more. We talk about our lives beyond the job, asking, what does the flexibility of sex work allow us to do, and who does it allow us to be? On this show, we learn who sex workers are outside of the work we're known for. When We're Not Hustling is an exploration of the people behind the fantasies. When We're Not Hustling is powered by Black Venom Digital. Black Venom Digital is a collaboration between myself and industry veteran Mr. Black Venom. Black Venom Digital aims to provide adult professionals and entrepreneurs with professional-grade web design, graphic design, and branding services that will inspire growth and success. At Black Venom Digital, we empower companions, creators, and entertainers with professional web design and branding. If you're looking for a new website or any other branding services and you work in the adult industry, please find out more at blackvenomdigital.com. Hello, and welcome back to When We're Not Hustling. We really hope that you enjoyed our special recording of the live event last week. We didn't have an after party last week because it was already a particularly long episode, and we also had all of the discussions that we wanted to have at the event itself. So I hope you took time to listen to our special and long episode. This week, we turn back to our regularly scheduled episodes with guest Josie Oakley. She's a Pittsburgh-based escort and sex work advocate. I've known Josie for a long time, and it's such a pleasure to see her come into her own in the community. Today, we're going to be talking to her about a variety of things, from hosting No Boys Allowed sex parties to fighting for sex worker rights to the best snacks to eat in bed. We hope you enjoy this convo. Hello, Josie. Thanks for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here.
I know. I have to admit that the show, even though it's open to everybody, is partial toward Pittsburgh babes.
Hell yeah. Pittsburgh babes represent. It's because we're so full of babes. I don't know how it happened, but Pittsburgh is just statistically hot. I'm sorry. It's true.
It really is. It really is. This week, as in the week that we're recording, the interview that came out is Adri Rose, who is also a Pittsburgh babe and amazing.
Exactly.
So yes, it's fun. It's fun to represent. So can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Josie Oakley, named after my namesake, Annie Oakley.
Oh, really?
A sweet gun-toting little girly pop. I don't have any guns, but I have the energy of being
That's true.
being like a little feisty with braids.
That's very cute. I like the braids. And what do you do?
I am an escort, full service worker, whore, hooker. I have fun. I throw sex parties. I have a vanilla job. I used to be a dancer. Basically, I do anything that the wind takes me to on any given week.
You are very busy. Yeah. Okay. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is we'll talk about the work that you're doing in Pittsburgh, but I also wanted to talk to you about the parties that you throw. So I've been to one of your parties at your house, and it was called a No Boys Allowed party. And I think you throw other parties too, not just those ones, but I wanted to dive into your parties. So can you tell me a little bit about how you started organizing parties and what you do with that?
Yeah, so No Boys Allowed is a twice a year roughly party that I started a couple years ago because I was at home and I was thinking, like, I wish there was more sapphic, kinky energy in my life. And I wanted to go to this party and it didn't exist anywhere in our region.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what are you going to do? I guess I have to throw the party if I want to attend it.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. I had no
Those things
idea
are
what I
always
was
like that
doing.
when you're like, there's a thing that I want that doesn't exist. So I need to create that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I needed to create that thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I feel like now there's probably some good handbooks about how to throw a sex party, but there wasn't really much available on that topic at the time.
How
Um, and
long have you been doing it?
the first one was probably 2018.
Oh, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, COVID messed that up a little bit, of course.
Mm.
So we missed a couple of years in there. And actually, this year I'm really excited. We have another one coming up this month, in September 2024, and I am delighted to say that I don't have to run it anymore. That I have handed off this baby to a larger community, and it's a little scary
This is
because,
the first one that you've handed off?
yeah, because you know me, I love to be in control. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't true, but it is. Uh,
I
so
share that trait.
I don't know what you mean. Definitely not something a lot of sex workers have in common. I don't know. Yes. So one thing that started was like I spent way too long trying to pick a name for this party because I was like, the thing, I considered so many names, considered so many descriptions, and I was trying to come up with a name that really like was gonna be inclusive of the people, all the people that I wanted to be
Yeah.
there. And what it boiled down to at the end of the day was like, oh, I actually just there's no cis men here. That's like it's all of the people that share a marginalized experience of misogyny, trans misogyny, queerphobia even.
Yeah.
And but that's not a very fun party theme. So instead we went with this kind of bitchy name, like there's a treehouse with a handwritten sign that says no boys allowed.
But that
So
makes it more fun.
I
That's a
think
good
so
name.
too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Because yeah, it's not really a sapphic party or a lesbian party. It's a queer party, and the theme is that we're decentering men and just fucking around
Hmm.
without men there.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I really liked about it, about the way that you ran the party, is that there was like some mingling at the beginning, but you like went out of your way to lay out like the rules of conduct and to make sure that people felt safe and comfortable. So, how did you learn to do that? And what was like your process in doing that?
Yeah, I learned a lot from going to other events and parties. One of the first things I learned the first year was that, people started showing up. There was a good group of like 30 people in my living room. They were all fucking hot and looked so ready, but they were all just sitting there
Hmm.
literally talking about menstruation. And I was like, oh my God,
The
I
red
can't
tent.
with you guys. Like, I'm literally here trying to get everyone laid the way they want to get laid. And nobody's doing it. So I learned that, especially if there's a lot of femme types in a circle,
Hmm.
what's going to happen is people are going to slide back into the normal habits of being like politely complimenting each other
Yeah.
and being scared to flirt and having really meaningful, important discussions.
Hmm.
But that's not what we came here for. So
Yeah.
I've learned
That's
about,
100% me, by the way. Like,
right. Yeah, you're totally like that too. Yeah,
I'm
calling you out
like that.
fully.
I will never start something. And so
You'll
that's
never, yeah.
why I'm attracted to femmes, but like nothing ever happens because
Yeah.
they're also like, they're too much like me. And we just like start to talk about the meaning of life.
Yeah. But this night I learned that another party friend came up who's sort of like, genderqueer mass type with an undercut. And this person came up to me and was like holding a knife and looking at me and looking at the circle and then looking back at me. And they just walked into the circle and were like, I didn't come here to talk. I came here to use this knife. Who wants to use this knife? And I was just on the edge like, oh. And that's when I learned about the idea that I think every good sex party needs some catalysts.
Yeah.
And this is why I love to do like a really curated invite list, because I do think every orgy at every party needs some of the people whose personality it is to stir some shit up. And you need to give them social permission to stir some shit up. And so like now I sort of like know who these people are after spending community with them. I'm sometimes that person at other sex parties too. Of like, it doesn't matter what it is, but if you just walk into a group of people who want so badly to do something but don't know how to start it, just like propose something.
Yeah.
Be like, I have this toy. Can you learn how to use it on me? And like, even if you're like not that hype about the toy, whatever, it's just getting things catalyzed. So the opening circle, to answer your original question, partially came out of that, of being like, and also because as an organizer, I love a curated invite list, and I love to have like a chunk of catalysts. I love to have like 1/4 new people, like completely new or new to this community. I like to have like 1/4 like truly old heads. It's and then the rest of the chunk is sort of like a mix of whoever shows up.
Yeah.
But like for the new people, being acculturized is so important, because not only are new people like they might not know the rules of consent in this space and might overstep boundaries, but even more importantly, in the opposite direction, like sort of that middle group of people who have some experience are much more likely to cause discomfort for the new people.
Yeah, right.
If the new people don't know that they have like the right to say no, or what to expect from the people around them. And so I love an opening circle to establish a lot of community norms in that respect.
Yeah. So what are the kind of things that you, for people who haven't like been to one of these parties, like what are the kind of things that you talk about? What are the norms that you establish, I guess is the better question.
Yeah. So there's a couple realms of norms. I mean, one is like house rules. This is someone's home and we need to respect it. That's the unfun one. So setting that aside, another one is safety and consent. So those are like the two big norms. So on the safety topic, like I've learned from my friend Lucy, who also threw trans sex parties in Pittsburgh before they left town, at the absolute width of safety topics that you want to cover. So like community safety stuff is, I mean, most people immediately think of like, how do I not get an STI at this party? But I'm even more so thinking about like, what's much more common is like someone has a negative experience. And how do they respond to that? Like that is way more common than like there's a herpes outbreak at the party. Like, you know what? We're all going to take some antivirals and we're all going to live on with our life.
Right.
But what we don't want to happen is someone has like a really uncomfortable or traumatizing experience and leaves alone sitting with those feelings for an indefinite amount of time. And you can't take antivirals to fix that one. And so that's even more important in my book.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that would be the hard thing about hosting a party. Like my fear, like that would be my fear, I think, if I was going to host a party like this, would be like, because you can't actually control everything that happens. And so there's an extent to which you kind of have to trust people to like advocate for themselves. But how do you feel like you set the conditions to kind of mitigate some of those risks?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and I'm still always trying to figure this out. But as a party host, especially as the solo host for a long time, like that role comes with a lot of power. Like I was the gatekeeper of this space, which is a really rare space. and something that some people really wanted.
Yeah.
And like I do have some responsibilities and duties as a host, but I also like the only way I could keep my sanity and do parties was also keeping in mind that like I cannot be solely responsible for community safety.
Yeah.
Like in fact, that's a community job.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to be a community job. Like this city is too damn small for me to single-handedly keep track of all of the abusers, everyone's bad exes, and keep track of all the beef between people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Possible.
It's impossible.
I think about that, and this is a much smaller scale, but like running a show, and I've run many shows, like or a handful of them now. I found that people would get mad at me because I had some guest on that they had some beef with. And I'm like, I don't know everybody's beef. Like, I can't possibly keep up with why people are mad or what happened 5 years ago on some porn set, or like, I don't know everything. I'm not like omniscient. So
absolutely,
I think that, but I think whenever you're seen as like a central person for anything, there's like this expectation that you do keep up with all of that, which isn't a fair expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like, and we do have a responsibility as people with platforms to be thinking about how we are platforming other people. But at the same time, like, my personal stance, and sort of from like a background in philosophy and the more transformative justice world, is that like bad people aren't bad people, but the vast majority of the time, they're like just people who did bad shit. And like, in my world, I would love to have them have the opportunity of repairing and learning from that. Like, I personally am a consent violator. Like, I have violated people's consent, and like one of those was intentional and inexcusable and happened like many years ago, and we've worked through. And some of those were just sort of like miscommunications that like also got worked out between people. And so yeah, like if it hadn't worked out okay to where the people I was with and I had the skills to like communicate about it and apologize and like try to take some accountability for it, like this party wouldn't exist because I would be banned maybe. So
no, I think it's so like beautiful, like, and important though to be able to do that, because I know, like, I think back on my past too and things that have happened, and I'm like, man, I really wish that I didn't handle this situation like this, because I did misread cues, or, there's all kinds of reasons why people can leave any sexual encounter feeling like a little unsettled about what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my book, like, rather than invest my time trying to maintain sort of like and collect the banned list of every organization in town, like keep up with every identity group's like current conflict, is I want to invest my time instead in learning about how to do conflict and repair. Not that I do it well always, and like would prefer to invest my friends' time in that as well.
Yeah.
So like transformative justice has been like so critical for helping me understand my own experiences with violence, both as like someone who has caused harm and someone who's experienced violence. And things like, if you're going to host a party, a book that you should buy, prescriptive advice, listen up, you should buy this book. It's called Fumbling Towards Repair by Mariam Kaba, and it's a workbook for facilitators, and it's like really concrete, and there's like things you can write in blanks and stuff like that is about how to do facilitation in a way that can focus on accountability and community repair. So
yeah, that's really, really good advice, I think, for anyone who's doing this. And I like the way that you are framing this as like, where is it that you want to put your time and energy, knowing that people make mistakes, that there are things that happen that do like human things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the like things that like, okay, so you said that you wanted to get into it because this didn't exist. Like, did it bring the sort of like sapphic, sexy energy into your life in the way that you wanted it to?
Oh, it so did. It was so good. Like the first time I got fisted was in my own basement at one of these parties. That was like that's just an example. Like that's what I'm missing. So and it's been such a wonderful way of meeting so many people, both in the kink community, TM that calls itself the kink community, but also just like the weird artists and the queers and like all the trans girls in town. And it's just been such a wonderful way of building community, especially focusing on making sure that there's new people every time.
Yeah.
Who want to be there. And so, yeah, it's working. It's worked. And I'm excited to not be in charge anymore because now for the first time I get to go to the party.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you this. When you are the host, do you feel like you can play in the same way, or do you feel like you're having more of a host role?
I think both. Yeah, like after the first time, I had this realization of like, oh, if I'm gonna have fun at my own party, like I gotta let go of this need to be in control of everything.
Yeah.
So some things that I've done to like help me have fun are, I mean, just like try to set up this space so it's like autonomous. Like it can run itself after we get started. Like once we press the go button, like everything has labels. So no one's asking me like, where are the condoms? Or like, there's a big stack of towels and sheets and paper towels. So no one can ask me like, oh my God, we spilled something. What do I do?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of labels. There's like a volunteer role that I try to have, which has had different names, like a scout or party angel. But it's just like the person who's briefly wearing a high-vis vest. And like, that's the person you go ask questions to. And then if they can't figure it out, then they can come find me and can ask me the question.
Right. But it might interrupt your fisting if somebody spills their wine.
It's true. But you know what? My rug will get a stain on it and I will still have a fist in me. Like that's my priorities in life. They're set. So, yeah.
I think I condone those priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
When We're Not Hustling is brought to you by Assembly 4. Assembly 4 is a collective of sex workers and technologists working to bring the overall cost of sex work down through their advertising platform, Tryst.link. They also educate clients through the Good Client Guide and provide resources and articles written by and for sex workers. Assembly 4 caters to all genders and demographics and raises funds to fight for sex worker rights and against exploitation in the sex industry. Learn more at assembly4.com. ASSEMBLYFOUR.com. Thank you for listening to When We're Not Hustling. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Doing so will help other people find us. And if you're a sex worker who wants to come on the show and talk about your life outside of work, we would love to have you. Please send an email with more information to nothustlingpod@proton.me.
Party accessibility.
Oh, yeah.
This is like a big important thing to me. I mean, in part because like the kink community is full of blessed weirdos and lots of different flavors of neurodivergence. Yeah. And I mean, for those who don't know, Pittsburgh is a city built of hills. And so mobility wise, there's not a damn accessible place in this whole city. That's not quite true. But I mean, it's like a tough place to have mobility accessibility.
And everybody has houses on hills and the stairs.
Yeah, I live in a huge house and a huge hill where there's no way of getting in without some stairs. But I mean, some of the accessibility things that I found are really helpful for this kind of party is just having a quiet space. This one's huge, especially if there's a lot of people in a tiny house. Like there just needs to be a little room with low lighting and not very much sensory input, where talking is discouraged and where people can go and just take a breath. And every time I've had one of these rooms at a party, it gets used.
I'm so glad you talk about that because it is very, very hard to get me to go to a party. And that is the reason, because I get overwhelmed, and I get overwhelmed if there's more than 3 people at anything. I get overwhelmed, and it's not social anxiety. It's like sensory,
Absolutely.
you know? And so now that people have started to do that, I feel like that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I mean, like, for the same reason, I tend to limit music at parties. Like, people love music and people hate music. And
Yeah.
so usually I have like a room with thumping music, and then the rest of the house is quiet.
Yeah.
And this is also important if you have like hearing issues, if you're hard of hearing. And another like super basic accessibility thing is just labeling the food. Like, allergies are an accessibility barrier. If someone can't eat, then they get low blood sugar, and then they're grumpy, and then they have a bad night. So,
yeah.
It's so small, but it is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it gives people who maybe are like anxious something to do, to like stand around and snack the people who are eating something.
Yeah. People love to make little signs. Like, they live for it. There's always someone at the party who's just waiting to be given a task to help out. And like, people really want to help, I promise.
You know, my partner is a photographer. I mean, not as a job, but like does photography. And they do that in part because they are neurodivergent, and they struggled at like in social places, and found out that if they had a job, they knew what to do with themselves when they were at like a family event or a party or something. So they taught themselves how to be a photographer to give themselves a job at social events.
That's amazing. That is like top tier self-accommodation. I love that so much. I love that. Yeah, I think it's true though. Like, delegating as a party host is actually a gift to everyone involved. Like, it makes the party better. It makes your time better. And it gives the little social anxiety baddies like something to soothe their brain. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so important. So tell me just one example of one of your favorite moments at one of these parties.
Ooh.
Besides the first time you were fisted.
This is so good. There's been so many beautiful moments. I mean, and really sexy moments. There's something that's so special about like, I'm downstairs doing a thing, you know? I'm like, a couple of years ago, I was talking to this non-binary person who was like, I haven't given a blowjob in years because of some trauma shit. And I was like, well, I have a really nice hot pink cock. I love getting blowjobs. So we like set up in the basement, and I got one of the best blowjobs I've ever gotten.
Aww.
And I think it was pretty meaningful for this person, and they had a bunch of people come watch them too through it. And then I finished that, and I go upstairs and like I just open my bedroom door, and there's like 10 of my friends who are all in this sweet little cuddle pile on my bed, and I'm just like, where am I? It's so beautiful.
I think that's one of the nicest things. I love that story, but I also think that's one of the nicest things about doing sex work is having these like moments where you see people realize things that like that they've wanted to realize, that they've been scared to do. Like, there's something about those moments that can be so precious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. Okay, so I know that you are also very busy working on some local Pittsburgh organizing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. My other favorite thing to talk about besides sex parties is so for I think about 6 years now, I've been working with the local SWOP chapter here in Pittsburgh, and just a year and a half ago or so, we launched a new group and campaign called For Safer Sex Work. And this campaign is a movement to change the local city laws here in Pittsburgh to change the penalties for prostitution. So in my mind, this is like sort of a first step of decriminalization, because our state is not quite ready for that yet. We're getting there. We'll work on it, but this is step one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tend to not use that language in the campaign because it really scares the aunties
Yeah. Hmm.
and the city officials. So I've been jokingly call it like down criminalization.
Okay.
So right now in Pennsylvania and in most US states, prostitution is a misdemeanor charge.
Hmm.
So in most states, this can land you a pretty big fine. It can land you jail time. And the more you stack up, the higher the degree of the misdemeanor, and the penalties increase from there.
Hmm.
And it's a criminal charge. So the thing we're trying to do is that Pennsylvania has this weird legal structure where some major cities have sort of their own legal power to regulate stuff within their city limits, called the rule of charter. And Pittsburgh is luckily one of those cities, as is Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and all the big spots. So if you're listening and you live there, you can do this too.
My understanding is that because like that Philadelphia more or less has decrim at this point in the sense that like their DA has just decided to throw out most of the cases.
Yeah.
Is that true? That's my understanding.
I think that is my understanding of the current DA's policy. The problem with doing things at the DA level is that I don't have like a ton of data to back this up, but the little that I've seen is that a DA will make this announcement that they're not going to prosecute prostitution charges, and then the arrests and charges go way down for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of forgets. Or the DA changes, and then we have a whole new DA, and the campaign has to restart and reset, and then that whole process goes over again. So it's really excellent, and it's something that I would love to see here.
Yeah.
With the county DA, and that, I mean, it's on our agenda to do.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I don't think any other city has attempted what we're doing, which is actually putting in a law. And the nice thing about that is that,
looks like.
Yeah, so this is that, like I said, currently prostitution is a misdemeanor, and the change we're making is to downgrade the penalties to be a small civil violation, also called summary violations or summary citations. They're all the same thing, but it's basically like what you get when you get a traffic ticket.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the goal. It changes it to the lowest level charge we have. The fines go down to like $100-$300 from the $1,000 range. It is no longer a criminal charge that will show up on all types of background checks, which is awesome. Although it could still show up on some, probably.
Yeah.
And most importantly, there's no jail time attached to that penalty.
So where are you with that right now?
Yeah, so it's been about 1.5 years of this work. Just last week, this is early September 2024, we talked to several city council members to brief them on this bill, to be like, hey, we're about to introduce this. Don't be surprised by it. It is a topic that you might get a lot of questions about or might not know a lot about. And that went really well, I think. And we're going to continue to brief the remaining city council members in the next few weeks and hopefully introduce that in a month.
That's exciting.
So if all goes well, whenever this is released, insert update about the fact that this law passed, hopefully.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Yeah. That would be so amazing.
So how much of a, I used to be very active in SWOP, and we were working on other campaigns when I was there. And it is a very large like time commitment to do this sort of organizing. Like, how much of your time is taken up with this ordinance and trying to create this and talking to officials and doing all of this work?
Oh, jeez. I should track it. I should really track it and see. I used to do pretty good about tracking my advocacy hours, just to like, for my own sense of self, of like, how am I spending my time? Am I leaving time to spend with my friends or not?
Yeah.
And there was definitely weeks that it was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I feel like I often end up getting the nickname spreadsheet bitch in organizing spaces I'm at. I tend to do a lot of administrative work because it doesn't scare me, and not a lot of people are excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I'm excited about being the one who runs budgets and
Yeah.
like manages email accounts,
But you
but
can do it, huh?
I can do it and I'm willing to do it. So
Somebody has
uh,
to do everything.
somebody has to do everything. And so, yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. I'm excited that I just graduated from the Spokes Hub,
Oh, that's
your education
amazing.
program. Ooh,
Uh,
give me a little hoe hat, a little hoe
yeah, so
graduation hat.
tell me about that because we talked
Yeah.
to Melody KG, who is one of the founders of the New Moon Network last season. And in the month of September, she's the after party co-host. So she's very involved with that. But can you talk about what it's like as a student of that program?
Yeah, it was great. And the reason it came to mind is that after you graduate, you're now eligible to apply for like, it's a small pool, but it's still a pool of money
Mhm.
that supports unpaid work in sex work advocacy.
What she was telling us. So what
Yeah,
does the
it's such a
program
cool
look like?
program. The program, when I did it in summer 2024, was you are required to take a certain number of classes and workshops. I think it was like 5. I forget the exact number. I think I ended up going to like probably twice as much as that because they're so good.
Yeah.
Most of them are so like I did the media training just at the right time when I needed to do like some media work for this
Mhm.
ordinance project. The workshops were super helpful, and would recommend 10 out of 10, even if you don't want to commit to doing the whole program.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
after you take the classes, basically you have to give a final presentation on literally anything related to sex work advocacy. Um, and then that's it. And
Yeah.
now I'm excited. I'm going to apply for some of their unpaid labor money soon.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
love the work that they're doing.
yeah,
I think it's really important.
big shout out. I love capacity building projects. I do think, like, especially in our industry, it seems like there's so many incredible, competent, charismatic people
Yeah. Mhm.
who just like aren't quite connected to a
Yeah.
project or like
Mhm.
know how to charm the pants out of a rich lawyer, but maybe not a journalist. And
Yeah.
like, we're so close to like dominating and getting what we want. It's just like putting these final pieces together. And I think Spokes Hub and New Moon Network are helping us put the pieces together. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great program for sex workers. I was thinking about doing that as well, just because it seems like it would be neat to go through. You can always learn from other people how they're doing things, how they're thinking about things.
Yeah. And they're mostly taught by current and former sex workers too, which is awesome.
Mhm.
Which is so awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what else do you have going on?
Ooh, what else do I have going on? Some things. I just got back from a kink camp.
Oh, yeah.
I love to dance. I'm always dancing. I love applying to class action lawsuits. They're one of my hobbies.
What?
What? Oh yeah, I was like, oh no, I hope we don't have to talk about class action lawsuits because I love it so much, and that's how I lose friends is talking about class actions.
So,
But
like, what class action lawsuits do you join in?
when you join, okay, but any of them that you're eligible for, you can. They're like candy, okay? It's like for
Have you
those.
gotten money from these?
Yes, I've probably made $200 this year from class action lawsuits. So.
Really? Because I sometimes get notices that say like I'm
Yeah.
eligible, and I'm just like,
Okay, yeah. See, next time you get a notice, just all you have to do is paperwork, like 2 forms,
okay.
and then you just wait. And then a year later, either nothing happens or you get random money.
That's kind of cool.
It's kind of fun. And I mean, okay, so for those who don't know, a class action lawsuit is a lawsuit where a bunch of individual people get together and sue a company. Because like if you're just one little guy, suing Starbucks, this was a class action I was in, suing Starbucks for sharing your data on their public Wi-Fi, like it's not gonna go anywhere. But if there's 1,000 people who are like, that's fucked up, you owe us, then a big law firm will come together and collect all these people and do all the work, and you are just a mere individual in the class.
Yeah.
And I don't know, once you find one of these I can't explain why. They will start coming to you. Like, once they know you'll do the paperwork, they'll send you more of them. So, like, right now, I'm in an antitrust lawsuit against Steam, like the video game distributor
gosh, really?
online. I got a little bit of money from like a period panty company that was selling toxic panties.
Oh, geez.
I know that one was like, oh,
Might be a part of these, but it's good if you get money from it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a part of it because you don't want toxic period panties.
Yeah. I super recommend joining any of the ones against tech companies, though. The money's pretty good. Yeah. You got like $40 from Facebook just for filling out a form a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, if you need a new hobby, a side hustle, it's not a very reliable one, but...
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about that as a side hustle, but I do get flyers like that every once in a while.
Yeah. Or the car companies, definitely sign up for those. They got big money there. So
yeah, interesting. I also heard that you like snacks.
I do. Oh, yes. I was telling you that one of my worst personality traits is that I love to eat in bed.
I don't think it's a bad personality trait.
You don't think it's a bad personality trait?
No.
Tell that to the crumbs that my partners are like, oh my God, why am I sitting in rice cakes again? But yes, I am always looking for everyone's sort of like unified theory of foods that you can eat in bed safely.
Mm-hmm. I don't think rice cakes are a food that you can eat like anywhere, but like
what?
Rice, my partner eats rice cakes. I don't understand how you can eat those. They're like eating cardboard.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I can't explain why, but they feel like a neurodivergent snack. Like, suddenly, like only autistic kids like plain salted rice cakes, but they're so good. I can't explain why. But don't eat them in bed, okay? I know I can't stop doing it because they're the perfect snack, but they're so crummy.
Okay.
What do you eat in bed, Jessie? What's your go-to bedtime snack?
Ice cream is a good bedtime.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a wackadoodle bed snack. You don't get chocolate everywhere?
No, you keep it in the bowl.
Okay, see, that's a weak point for me. Okay. It has to be impossible to spill.
Yeah. Popcorn?
Okay, but if you drop one of those, those things can, they'll like penetrate your soul if you sleep on them wrong.
That's true. I don't know. Okay, so what are your other snacks besides rice cakes?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked, but the perfect snack to eat in bed is peanut M&Ms. That's my final answer.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, because if you lose one, it's got that thick coating. Yeah, so you're not gonna get chocolate everywhere.
Over your bed.
Yeah, and you can wake up the next morning and be like, "Oh my God, a peanut M&M!" And if you're feral, you just eat it. Like
That's what I would do.
Yes, exactly.
I was walking my son to school this morning and he dropped his apple like 5 times. And I was like, why does he keep dropping it? But then it would like roll down the street a little bit because again, Pittsburgh is hilly. So
right.
He was like running after his apple. And then he would just pick it up and take another bite of it. This went on and on the whole way to school.
Was he having a good time like chasing after the apple?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe he was doing it on purpose.
There you go. Yeah. I think it's kind of fun. I didn't
stop him from doing it. I'm like, he can pick up an apple and eat it. That's how people got apples before, was to pick them up before we had grocery stores.
Excellent point.
Up and eat them. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I'm raising a feral child.
And feral children unite. That's why he and I get along just fine. We both have a little feral energy in us. But anyone listening, please send me your favorite snacks to eat in bed, because this is my life's research project and life's work. Yeah. I know there's some disabled baddies out there who spend a lot of time in bed and who have this down, and I want to know your pro tips for eating in bed.
Yeah. Do you ever eat meals in bed?
Oh yeah. I would say I ate 50% of my meals in bed. I'm home.
In my old show On the Horizon, we did this thing where we asked everybody, we put together this episode of what everybody's what like the day in the life of a sex worker looks like. And
Mhm.
one of the people we had on was Honey Daniels, and they were talking about how their favorite thing to do when they're on tour is after all the clients leave, like make the sheets less taut so that they're like, because in hotels they're like always tucked in so
How
tight.
do they do that? Like, do they have a ratchet? How do they get them that tight?
I don't know. And then order like filet and
Mm.
sit in bed and eat
Hmm.
like a filet meal. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's so decadent and lovely.
That's excellent energy. I'd be more like eating Hot Pockets in the hotel bed. But respect for the people who have the self-respect to buy the filet.
All right. So it's about time to wrap up. So I'm going to end with 3 questions. What are you reading right now?
Ooh. So a local art collective called Jaded, which is like an Asian American, Asian diaspora art collective. They organized an exhibit, which was like a reading room, an Asian
Oh,
American reading room
cool.
here in Pittsburgh at Bunker Projects. So I read a bunch of fun stuff there. It
Nice.
was so fun to just like roll up to an art gallery and like read random things that have been curated by
Nice.
amazing artists. So one thing I read there was called Constraints by
Mhm.
Stefan Triplett. Stefan is like a local poet, memoirist type. I don't know, genre bending type,
Okay.
but has some really excellent essays in a really
Okay.
short book. Love a short book. Yeah.
What are you listening to?
What am I listening to? I recently rediscovered the fact that audiobooks exist.
Two.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I
Right.
just
And chores.
mm, I just listened to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo on audiobooks
That
by
good.
Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was fun. I had low hopes, to be honest, but it was more delightful and more gay than I was expecting, which is what I want from most books.
Yeah.
And then right now I'm also listening to Thriving in Sex Work by Lova Davina.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She's great.
It's so fun to have her read it.
I
It's
didn't think
like
about that, but yeah.
I'll be like driving to a client and Lola Davina is just giving me a little pep talk in the car. And it's so good. 10 out of 10 would recommend the
Yeah,
audiobooks.
I like her so much. I've interviewed her a couple times, once about her
Ooh.
original book and then once about the money one, which was also really, really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to read the money one because I feel
Yeah.
like I need someone's voice in my ear about money. So,
Yeah. And she has this like very calming presence that
yes,
you're like, oh, yes, I want to do all the things that she tells me to do.
100%. 100%.
And what are you excited about?
Oh, I am really excited about this ordinance.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think it's going to finally pass. But apart from that, I am super excited that I get to go to Europe in October
Oh,
for a sex worker arts festival
my
that
God.
is showing a game that I helped make a couple of years ago there. So
Oh, that's so neat. Where's the festival?
it is in Brussels, in Belgium.
Oh, I
It's
love
called
Belgium.
Snap Festival. I've never been. Apologies to the Belgians, but I don't know shit about Belgians. But I'm excited to learn.
Yeah, I have been to Belgium a couple times and it's a beautiful place. It's so neat. Yeah, and your game is amazing. Only bands, but can you say just like a couple sentences about that?
Sure. Only bands, BANS. Get the joke? Like OnlyFans, but bands. It's about online sex work and censorship. And Lena Chen, this amazing, multi-talented artist, former sex worker, put it together, and I helped do the coding for it. You can still play it online. You don't have to go to Brussels to play it, but it's at onlybandsgame.com.
Yeah, it's really neat because the people who are playing have to try to figure out how to run their business without getting shut down.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah. Okay, and where can people find you?
you can find me, unfortunately, on the internet, uh, and on Twitter at the Josie Oakley. on Instagram at the Josie Oakley, in my email, the Josie Oakley.
At Proton or?
At Proton. Yeah, Proton works. And preferably you can find me in person because I love people more than I love screens.
Yes, that's fair. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been so fun. We should hang out more often.
We should. We really should. Thank you for joining us for another episode of When We're Not Hustling. I'm your host, Jessie Sage. You can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual or visit my website at jessiesage.com. The show was produced by Emily Foster and the music is by Benjamin J. Beninati. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NotHustlingPod. To support the show and get sneak peeks, please go to patreon.com/sapiotextual. For more information about our show and what we do here, please visit our website at nothustling.com. Signing off. Have a great week.